time for everyone to panic. I think I want there to be like a. Do we have any nice little special effects? We don't have the money for it.
Everybody panic! Just get someone behind the cameras to like shake the cameras.
Yeah, we should. But right
Sound
now,
the alarm.
Right now, here's what's happening, and basically the signs of faster melting ice in the world's largest ice shelf. The study is showing the Antarctic's Ross Ice Shelf reveals that one area is melting due to relatively warm ocean water getting into the cavity under the shelf. The findings have implications for future sea rise levels, and so far, in some areas, especially for the Antarctic's Ross Sea, in some areas it can be found to be 750 meters, 2,450 feet thick. The ice shelves like this one are formed continuously by glaciers which feed them. In turn, the shelves act as a brake on the glaciers and also moderate the amount of melting that occurs. But however, because of this, because of the warming ocean waters, we're seeing these ice shelves basically crack, melt faster, and that's going to have a huge consequence, especially towards some of the superstorms that develop in the Atlantic Ocean and the Gulf of Mexico. And I think we all know what happened with Puerto Rico that last summer, where a superstorm hit them and devastated the entire island. Miami was hit, parts of Florida were hit, and as a result, we could be seeing large areas of land, not only here in the United States, but other coastal communities in the Western Hemisphere basically be drowned. So I kind of want to get your thoughts on this, guys, in regards to talk about climate change and really what it means for us, especially as we go into the next 4 and 5 years for the human species. Like, what happens to us?
It's terrifying, right? I mean, I'm not a climate scientist, but a climate scientist would say this is what we've been warning about. And as climate scientists continue to say year after year after year, yeah, it's even worse than we predicted.
Which is what this report pointed out. Like, by the way, it's worse than what we were saying already.
Yeah, consistently, that's not a good trend line to be like, well, it was worse than we thought it was going to be last time. Let's overestimate a little this time. Ooh, it's still worse.
It's still really bad.
I don't know, maybe we've got 12 years left or 11 and a half years left before we can start reversing that.
Well,
is that generous?
Yeah.
No. Well, here's the concern, because there's a lot of reports saying that in the next 10, we've already passed the point of no return, and in the next 10 years, we have this rare opportunity to where we can reverse some of the damage, because of the emissions that are done by our industries and our cars. Look, we're all guilty of using fossil fuels, but I think we need to have a conversation about moving all our societies away from the fossil fuel usage to green technologies.
There should be a Green New Deal or something.
That's really crazy. I mean, to think that actually like investing into like new industries would create jobs, I call bull.
well, at least because the problem here in the United States is not only do we have this current administration that refuses to acknowledge or even talk about climate change, but there are also some Democrats that take money from the fossil fuel lobby and refuse to be part of the conversation.
Beto O'Rourke.
Beto O'Rourke, yep. The guy, he comes right behind Ted Cruz in regards to getting the most money from fossil fuel lobby groups.
That's insane.
So, yeah, what's so incredible about also, professionally what I do is I coach people, so whether it's in fitness or just wellness or just, living a healthy life. And one of the things I see over and over again when I'm coaching people is that they want this thing. And they keep like doing things. Their behaviors are giving them just the opposite of what they want, just the opposite, right? Mm-hmm. So I think about the climate change conversation and what's going to happen when all of this stuff melts and all of these coastal cities start to drown, places like Puerto Rico, places like Florida, and suddenly we're going to have this wave of immigrants coming in, because that is certainly one of the things that's going to happen is we're going to have migration, mass migration. Yeah. And, you have, our right-wing brothers and sisters over here talking about how they hate immigration and they also don't believe in climate change, and it's just they're creating their own sort of like bubble of like mishaps and hatred, right? Where it's just like, how is all this happening? Why are all these people migrating? Bad drugs, illegalize it all. Bad climate change doesn't exist. And it's like, well, don't you understand that those policies are the ones that are creating exactly what you don't want? And I guess the answer is no.
Well, because when we were covering climate change, especially or when the early days of our show, we were talking about the dangers of ignoring the scientific fact of climate change. And Daniel, Paul, we've gone on the record saying that as soon as these superstorms become more of a common thing, it's going to become really ineffectual to really rebuild cities like Miami or Washington, D.C. or New York City, which are actually below sea level. And if it becomes rampant and continuous, it's going to get to a point to where the infrastructure cannot hold it anymore, and there's going to have to be a mass migration of all these people that live in these major cities. It's not just small towns, but also even within the Gulf of Mexico and even the coastal areas within the Western Hemisphere, there's going to be communities that are going to be devastated. They won't be able to maintain. And then what does that do not only to the economy, but to the ecosystems around the entire planet? Because human beings were used to, especially here in the United States, we're used to our food, we're used to our coffees, we're used to the basic necessities. But the thing is, the reason why we have such creature comforts is because our climate has been able to produce and maintain that kind of support for us. But as soon as that disappears, people are going to react violently, or either that, not know what to do, or even think now that the system that we're so used to can no longer provide for us. And that's the consequence of ignoring climate change. Look, this Arctic ice shelf is melting. It's cracking. It's going to do it. No matter whether you are against climate change or not, it's going to be a reality, and these superstorms will be something that we'll have to live with.
And I don't know if you mentioned it, but it said it was 100 times the size of previously reported on ice shelves cracking. And if those ice shelves are getting reported on, I'm guessing they're pretty big. So 100 times bigger than that is really, really frightening.
This ice shelf is the size of France.
Yeah.
We're not kidding around with how large we're talking about here.
Yeah.
And think about, so again, I'm not a climate scientist, but a climate scientist might say one of the concerning things about this amount of ice melting is that it will change the saline composition of the water in the Arctic Ocean, which has an effect of altering currents, right? Because you have a lot of natural sort of turbines that affect north-south currents, which carry warm water back and forth and cold water south, and et cetera, et cetera. When those sort of saline turbines sort of turn off because there's so much fresh water now they don't have the saline content they used to, that alters climate patterns everywhere.
And ecosystems, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
So this is the kind of thing to worry about.
I agree completely. And I also want to read a very funny comment, too. It's in our chat. This is from JTVJ. He was actually watching the Chicago Corner story that I was doing on Sunday. And actually, there's like 2 million bees here being delivered, or already that are delivered here in the city of Chicago for beekeepers that want to, basically maintain their own beehives. And he basically states that this ain't going to be good for the bees. No. So, shout out to you, JTVJ. He's all the way from Canada. He's one of our members of our international audience.
Awesome.
So
International viewers.
Yeah, so
grow some flowers, get some bees.
Yeah, well, if the ecosystem will allow it.
Stop reproducing.
Yeah. It's going to be bad if we don't really take care of our ecosystem, because if climate change is seriously going to impact not only our weather patterns, it's going to impact other species as well, because we share this planet with a wide variety of animals and plants, and the reason why we have it is because there's a system currently in place, but one change to it can disrupt an entire ecosystem.
I think this is something I comment on for almost any major story. When you get down to the nitty-gritty of what needs to change systemically, what we're talking about is, everything has to change systemically. Whether you're talking about world peace, whether you're talking about equality for all, whether you're talking about climate change, what needs to be changed in our system is all of it. It's kind of the thing.
Yeah,
it's a big job.
Yeah. It is,
and we're here.
And we're here to report on it.